Hey, we got a great show for you today. You know, this random YouTuber is a retired guy. He did this simple video recently exploring the top 5 regrets that he found from the retirees that he interviewed. Now, he interviewed people that were all between their 70s and 80 years, basically in their 70s, between 70 and 80 years old. And what's really funny is just kind of a small time YouTuber just doing it in his spare time in retirement. Well, the video blew up. Last time I checked, over 500,000 views and growing. And so we want to look at his findings. It clearly struck a chord with people that wanted to learn more about regrets in the retirement landscape. So we're going to look at the 5 regrets that he found out about, get Scott's opinion on whether he sees these with his clientele, which ones should we truly be worried about, and how can we plan against them. We're going to talk about that coming up on today's video.
Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Your Retirement Elevated.
Welcome to Your Retirement Elevated. Walter Storholt with you alongside Scott Dugan once again, and he's in his fancy new studio. You're looking good, Scott.
Thank you.
This was a long time coming. You've been working on this, and this has been building in the background. And man, your lighting looks good. I'm jealous. I've got camera envy. Your camera's got great depth to it. You look very presidential, my friend.
Well, this is what we're calling the Face for Radio Studio. And, the inaugural launch of our YouTube/podcast in here. Now, I wish I could take credit. I was the checkbook for this,
Nice.
but I had a lot of great people that came in and helped helped source everything and set everything up, and still some minor tweaks. But I just I had the vision of this and surrounded myself with a lot of great people to make it happen. So we're excited about it and glad to be doing it from the new location.
When are you selling the naming rights to the studio is what I want to know.
It's coming up.
The Kansas City Chiefs. You could just go ahead and call it the Kansas City Chiefs studio, something along those lines.
Live from
free advertising from them, and it makes you feel cool.
There you go. Absolutely.
The Arrowhead, Scott Dugan Studios.
We're going to be hearing from their attorneys after this.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. It's free advertising. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, congrats on the new studio. It looks great. For our audio audience, you got to go check us out on YouTube so you can see the studio setup. It is pretty sweet. All right, Scott, let's get into the topic today. We're talking about the videos. I sent you this video. You and I were checking it out, and it's just funny. It's a very basic video, like just a guy sitting at a picnic table, I think, and he's just kind of talking about what his findings from interviewing these retirees. But clearly, people are interested in not committing mistakes and experiencing regrets in retirement. I'm sure that's something you experience with folks that come through your door all the time.
Oh, every day, as people come through. And what I really liked about this video is this is not coming from a professional. He's not an advisor. He's not in this space. He's just a curious guy with a YouTube channel, and he's asking people off the cuff, hey, what are your regrets? And I can tell you from, in my early 50s now, and having been doing this for, almost, 25 years, I've heard a lot from people, and, people never go back and say, man, I wish I would have worked more. I wish I'd have spent more time at the office. I wish I'd have missed more events for my kids or grandkids. It's never that. They wish they would have spent more time doing things they really enjoyed, they loved, made an impact. And it's always, they wish they would have done them sooner. And so I thought these 5 areas today, I've got some real life stories around all these that I'm excited to jump into today. Because if nothing else, if people can hear this and use it as a kind of a cautionary tale to help guide them through these retirement years, if it's not about not making mistakes, let's learn from others and let's not make their mistakes. That's how we get further ahead.
Absolutely. And I love that the 5 regrets that came out of this video, even though it wasn't a financial video, he's not a financial advisor, even though that's the case, they all connect right back to what you do each and every day, helping people plan for retirement, whether it's a specific financial element or something related to it. They all tie back in beautifully to the conversations that you're having. So I think that's a pretty neat connection here. So let's get into them, Scott. Here was the first regret that he found and addressed in the video was when he interviewed these retirees, they said that they wish they had retired earlier. Do you run into that regret among people that you work with?
We're fortunate. A lot of folks come to us, prior to retirement or, early in retirement. And some people do, come into the situation where they've already retired and maybe looking for something a little different. But I can tell you what holds most people back is not having a strategic plan in place on how to retire. They don't know if they're going to be okay. They don't know if they have enough. They don't know really how much it's going to cost. And so if you have all these unknowns, then you get paralyzed and you just keep doing what you're doing. And a lot of what we do is help people identify, hey, what is your current situation? What are your current resources? And what's your ideal situation? What do you want to do when you leave paid work? When you
Mm,
become permanently unemployed? What do you want to do? And planning is really making sure that you can get closer to from where you are to where you want to be. And if nothing else, shorten that, drop the hassle factor, and delegate a lot of those things to keep that plan on track to a group of professionals. And so that retirement is all about delivering a paycheck. If your resources can deliver a paycheck, then you're free to go. But again, if you don't have that plan in place, you may continue to work because you think you have to. Some people do it because they don't know what they're going to replace their time with, and they don't know how am I going to get validation. Am I
mm.
going to have the same? I'm not going to have the same group of coworkers and friends. And so I can tell you when I was preparing for our show today, an example, longtime client, uh, she had come in and she was wanting to retire early and definitely had enough finances to do it. Just needed a plan and permission to do that.
Okay.
And met with her, but actually never met with her husband because he was
Okay.
always busy. Now, they had enough resources for both of them to retire probably 3 to 4 years prior to meeting. And
Okay.
so she retired. He kept working, and he was 70. He was 70 when she retired in her mid 60s. And he finally decided to retire right before age 72 was the situation. And
Wow.
so retired, got everything in place. He passed away 7 days after he retired.
Oh man.
Now, not to be gloom and doom, because we don't know what the hands were, the cards were going to get dealt.
Right.
But there's an example of plenty of resources, could have retired years in advance. He didn't really engage in the planning, but he was really wrapped up into his job and wasn't ready to let go that significance that he felt by going to work every day and have a group of people count on him. And ultimately, they didn't get to do the things that they, as a couple, wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, they've got, she's gotten past that, done a lot of travel, spent a lot of time with grandkids, done a lot of charitable things. So she is taking a different route, a different chapter. But it could have been different, for them, unfortunately. But ultimately, she's made the best of the situation. But that's a cautionary tale that when you figure out that you have enough to do the things you want to do, every second that you delay that could be an opportunity lost.
Yeah, it's a great point. I would imagine too, a lot of people maybe assume they can't retire at a desired age and end up working past that. They almost build up too much of a buffer, but because they didn't do proper planning, they get into their 70s, like what this guy interviewed, and they
Mhm.
say, "Yeah, it turns out I could have retired earlier. Wish I had done that."
Yeah,
If they had just done the proper planning in advance, they might have been able to discover with you, actually, you don't have to wait till you're 65 or 70. You can do it at 62 or
right.
whenever the mood strikes you.
Absolutely.
So,
Because there's two components to this. There's the dollars and cents of it, the spreadsheet part of it, and then there's the
true.
emotional part of it.
Yeah.
Now, we're fortunate that the group, our team members we're all nerds for one thing. We like that. But
Nerd.
we spend a lot of time on the emotional side, the behavioral side of finance and retirement. That's most of what we do is
Yeah.
getting people through those barriers and getting them to focus on the things that are most important.
Can we get a new designation, Scott, and call it certified financial nerd? Can that be a new thing that we create?
Yes, we could pop up a website and start charging for that. I think it'd be great.
Yes, I think so. I think that's a designation people would get onto. So I think that, yeah, I want a nerd. That would be the thing. Do you want a nerd? Give us a call. Boom.
Yep. Nerds with personality. That's
right. That's right. I like it. All right, let's talk about the second regret that was found in this YouTube video. By the way, we're going to help this guy out and link to his channel. So if you want to go check out his video, that'll be in the description. You should definitely just give him a click, support him a little bit there. So the second regret he found was folks wish they had spent more when they first retired. So we're back to that early part of retirement regret, but this one's specifically on the financial side.
Absolutely. And so that can come from a lack of planning, like we talked about. So that'll get people to not do anything. And then the whole concept of people that are great at saving, every dollar they put in their savings is like a warm blanket.
Okay.
And the bigger the savings, the comfier the blanket, that security portion of it. And for a lot of people, when they retire, they're going to have to turn on the tap. They're going to have to start pulling money, drawing down out of that security blanket. And so that can be a big mental shift to start consuming resources. And you couple that with the idea of we don't know when or how long retirement's going to last. Is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Right. So not knowing if your money is going to last, that gives people anxiety, right? And so you've got two competing messages right now, and we'll talk briefly about it. There's going to be another episode about this. So in a large swath of our population, people aren't saving enough money. Where the average, retiree, 65-year-old couple, main income is 2 Social Security checks and less than a couple $100,000 saved for retirement. Okay, that's the vast majority of people.
Okay.
Now, we're very fortunate that the families that we serve were excellent savers, and they've got 7-figure plus portfolios. So the idea of them running out is much less likely to do that. But the messaging that they hear all the time is people aren't prepared, they're going to run out of money. And that's potentially true for a big swath of the population. That's just not the case with the people that gravitate towards us and that we've built our business around to serve. If anything, we see chronic underspending in the first 10 years of retirement. We talked about the go-go time, because that is when we've got hopefully the most energy, the most health, reserve, and just the excitement to go do those things. And if you are tentative and timid about spending that first 10 years and you kind of work yourself into it, what if something happens to your health and you don't have the health to do it? If you don't go to Machu Picchu and do that and early in retirement, you don't probably see a lot of 75, 80-year-olds going to Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
Okay. So prioritizing those things. So again, I think we see a chronic underspending. And I think one of the fallacies is, your expenses are just going to do this throughout retirement. And with a lot of the financial calculators out there, that's what scares people. It's like, oh, we're going to run out of money. Now let's segment out really your first 10 years of retirement are going to be the most heavily cash flow extensive.
Yeah.
The second 10 years roughly are going to decline. And the final chapter, it's going to decline barring healthcare. And that's where it hockey sticks up potentially if we have an issue. So again, chronic underspending for the top 5% population of the population. We're just fortunate enough that that's who tends to gravitate towards us.
Is your retirement journey truly tailored to your needs? In his book, Exceptional Retirement: Tools and Strategies for Retiring on Your Own Terms, Scott Dugan addresses the crucial questions all retirees ask. Discover the power of a clear financial decision-making process that can prevent major retirement mistakes and unlock exceptional opportunities. In the book, Scott outlines 4 essential questions that guide retirees toward successful outcomes. Don't miss out on key insights that could define your future. Available now on Amazon. Click the link in the description of this episode to get your copy of Exceptional Retirement.
It's interesting looking at these first two. Wish I'd retired earlier and wish I'd spent more. Well, you can see if we overdo it in this other direction, we might have, this is where the importance of planning comes into play, because now we're talking about making those savings last longer and spending more early. So yeah, we don't want to overcorrect here, but again, all comes back to putting together a solid financial plan. And that just truly makes all the difference for folks, which is a great reminder, by the way, if you need help putting together your own financial and retirement plan, it's what Scott's doing for folks each and every day in the office. He's got a fantastic team. They're based out of the Kansas City metro area, but work with clients all across the country. Really easy to get in touch if you've got questions. We've got the contact information on the screen for our viewers. It's also going to be in the description of today's show, so you can find it easily. ListenToScott.com is where you can go to find more episodes of the show and other great resources, along with the phone number 913-393-4724. All right, Scott, let's move on to our next regret that was in this video. And this one's definitely one that hurts to hear it, but people wish that they had taken better care of their health, a topic you and I have talked a lot on in the history of your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's without health and vitality. I mean, money is, you can't go out and enjoy it.
Yeah,
that's the unfortunate part. And where you see, especially our clientele that maybe worked very hard and sacrificed, and I know I was guilty of it. I sacrificed and made a choice to sacrifice my health for a big portion of my career, because I didn't put a priority on, activity and fitness, health, nutrition. And, the past 2+ years, I've made a big changes like you have, Walter, because I see it. I see clients that regret it. Oh, wow, I wish I would have, if I didn't know, my grandfather lived in 99. And I remember about 10 years ago, and he's like, if I knew I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. Now, he was in pretty good shape up to the end. He was so he did a nice job. And so I see it, personally. I want to have, health and vitality as long as I can. We want that for our clients for sure. But again, a perfect example, got a client recently, he and his wife, after many decades, sold a business. And prior to selling, he's really got fine-tuned and focused on his health, because he's got a long list of things he wants to do. And he knows that health is going to be the factor behind that's going to be able to push him through. And so, don't underestimate that. It doesn't have to be drastic or dramatic. Just start moving forward, doing things that put you in a better spot. And that could be getting some more steps, eating more protein, getting some resistance training, taking time for you and your mental health, just relaxing, introspective time. Those go a long way to, keeping your health in place so you can thoroughly enjoy retirement.
Yeah, it's huge. Really, really important. Let's get to regret number 4 here. Scott, I've got a great story to share on this one. This is when folks wish they had taken up a hobby. This was the 4th regret that this guy found in the video. And I've got a great story. Some friends of ours are retired. They've been retired for a couple of years now. And they go down to Arizona and in their RV and live for 3-4 months in the winter months. And but what's really cool is the wife, she makes sure that every year she learns a new hobby. And because they have classes at the RV place where they stay. And so a couple years ago, she took a photography class. Then she ended up getting a nicer camera, and she got really into learning how to edit photography. And that was what she then did the next year. And then after that, I think it was pottery. And then last year it was silversmithing. And so now and then she comes back, she buys all the materials, and that's her new hobby for the year. And she knows how to crochet and knit and all these other crazy, awesome things that she's learned in these years of retirement. And what's really cool is it turns into this whole year-long thing, and really a lifetime thing, because then she's creating gifts for people throughout the year, and she's given
Oh, nice.
she's then using that skill more than just learning it. She's now actually using it and putting it to use, enriching the lives of people around her, utilizing those skills. So it's pretty cool, and I'm wondering what she's going to get into this year. So
Never know. And to your point, longtime client of mine, Tom, we were at lunch one day, and he was a business owner, sold his business, but prior to selling, he got involved playing golf. And he's always been an avid fisherman. And he looked at me and said, "Hey," he goes, "you're a business owner." He goes, "You got to take up a hobby where you are part of a group." And so the idea of this golf, yes, it's the fact there's 20 plus of them that golf. He goes, "But I have 20 plus men in my circle that I can call upon and they can call upon me.
Yeah.
If I need something, or more importantly, if his wife needs something, it happens, because you've got to have that support group." And I've taken that to heart, and I've tried to build up. I'm not a golfer, but I do have a group of friends around me that are there that we can help each other out. And so I think that's very important. And most people, they have a hobby. It's something to do intellectually, but if it can also lead to a support network, not a cry on your shoulder support network, but just a like-minded people, I think that goes a long way, because people tend to become more isolated as they grow older, especially men. And social interaction is huge for mental health and vitality long term. There's a lot of studies out right now about that. And usually it comes down to, if you don't have enough social interaction, it's because you aren't managing your calendar well enough. And luckily, my wife, Jennifer, manages our social calendar, so I get plenty.
We can all benefit from a Jennifer in our life, no doubt.
Yes.
No doubt about it. So I know if I need Scott, I go to Jennifer. That's how it works. So love it. Well, I don't think you're going to have any problem addressing this final regret, Scott. And it kind of ties back into some of the earlier ones too, in terms of things that they wish they had done earlier in retirement. And that's travel more. It's such a common goal of a lot of people, but I bet you even hear from folks who have done some travel that they wish they'd traveled more.
I do. And here's the other thing. In today's world, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, travel is just not like it used to be." I've been guilty of saying that. Because it can be a hassle, in today's world. And hey, I remember the first time I ever flew to California to see my aunt and uncle with my parents. I remember chicken cordon bleu on the plane with plates, silverware, napkin. I was a little kid.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. It's not that today.
Right.
But I get it with security and everything. Jennifer and I recently, our trip for this year, we went to Rome and met some great friends there. And it wasn't fun getting there, for sure, but we got there. It was 102 one day as we're going through the Colosseum in the Forum of Rome.
That's crazy.
But you know what? Unbelievable to see culture so much older than ours eat some unbelievable food, throughout that trip, and just experience things that, we'll have those memories, especially with our friends, for the rest of our lives. And so where Jennifer and I don't have kids, we try to travel along the way and get some of these big bucket list things while we're working and while we have our health and all those things. But that travel, I think it gives you such a much better appreciation for what we have here in a time where I think we could probably have a little more appreciation for how great things can be. Yes, there's a lot of room for improvement. But if you travel the world and then come home and then you're not changed by that, it's going to be highly unlikely that you come back the same person traveling to other places.
Yeah. You really have a great point there, Scott. And also, you and I both being business owners, travel's a little different while we're working. I do wonder what that's going to be like in retirement when we get to kind of say, "Oh, we can go travel and not have to think about work." And that goes for not even just business owners, but anybody who still has a job that they've got to kind of think about while they're traveling and come back to that stress. That might make travel a little bit even better in retirement.
Definitely. And I'll add this, thinking through and why it's important to have discussions, with your significant other, is that if there is a laundry list of things you want to do, you also have to think about prioritizing which of those, because there's some things that just take resources to get there. There are some things that take resources and health and vitality once you get there.
Yeah.
And so those things that require vitality, you probably should put those on a priority list. We're looking at a trek through Patagonia.
Oh, cool.
And it's 9 to 12 miles a day hiking. You hike from one place to the other. It's like, if we were really going to do it, we got to get this done in probably the next few years.
Yeah.
To do it. Going on, a Mediterranean cruise, that doesn't take the same amount of effort and preparation from a fitness standpoint. So that's the thing I want to take people to take away. When you are traveling, start thinking about which are more intensive from a physical standpoint versus which just takes resources to get there.
It's a great point. Well, these are the kinds of conversations that you need to be having with your financial advisor. If you're thinking about planning for retirement, how can I make my money last as long as I do? How can I think about the next generation? When should I take Social Security? Should I roll over from a 401k into an IRA? What about Roth? These are all different kinds of questions that need to be on your mind, need to be part of the conversation. I didn't even touch on taxes. Do I have the most tax efficient plan possible? These are the kinds of things you should be talking about with your advisor. And if you're not, maybe it's time for a second opinion of your financial plan. And so if you are new to the show or maybe haven't worked with Scott and his team in the past, don't hesitate to reach out. Ask some questions that are on your mind. You can go through a complimentary review of your financial plan and see where some of those gaps that need to be filled are. And hey, you can avoid having these regrets like unfortunately others have had when they've gotten into their 70s and 80s and started to look back at how their retirement has unfolded. Live without those regrets by proper planning today. That's the common thread through all of these. So again, real quickly, the way to reach out, you can call 913-393-4724 or go online to listentoscott.com, schedule a time to meet online or give a call to set up that time or ask questions that you're thinking about. And Scott will be happy to help you out there. Scott, thank you so much for the help and the guidance on the show today. We'll look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Sounds great.
That's Scott Dugan. I'm Walter Storholt. We'll see you next time on your Retirement Elevated.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.